Hello, ODAC fans, and welcome to another ODAConline.com interview feature. My name is JJ Neckloff. I'm the Associate Commissioner with the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. And we have something a little bit special for you today as I go to our split screen view and I see Abigail Shelly, formerly of Eastern Mennonite University, but just recently formerly of Eastern Mennonite, having graduated as a part of the class of 2020. Abigail, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks, James.
Good to have you. Abigail, talk to us a little bit about, who you are and what you've done so far in your history. First off, where you're from and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm Abigail Shelly. As JD just said, I recently graduated from EMU. However, I grew up in Mississippi, so it was quite a way to come up to Virginia for university, but that's where I ended up. And currently I am teaching at Harrisonburg High School for this upcoming year. So that's a little bit about where I'm at now and where I came from.
Wow, you said Mississippi or Missouri? I apologize, I'm listening.
That's okay, Mississippi.
Mississippi,
Yep.
wow.
So
What?
south.
So then let's talk about, coming to Eastern Mennonite. What brought you out of Mississippi to Eastern Mennonite? What made EMU a great choice for you?
Right. Both my parents went to EMU and met there and got teaching jobs and then moved down to Mississippi. And so while I was raised there, I also had connections in Harrisonburg and Pennsylvania and Ohio. And so that's how I knew about EMU. And I heard about it growing up. We had quite a few friends in Mississippi, actually, who had gone to EMU. And I knew that I wanted to major in education. I knew that I wanted to run in college. And EMU just had all of those things provided. While I wanted to stay, well, I did not want to stay in Mississippi for my college experience. And so this also provided a great option for that. For me, it was coming up north. I know some people don't consider Virginia in the north, but so that's what it was for me. And yeah, that's how I ended up there.
Well, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I know when I moved down here, one of the guys who's now a close friend, he just called me a Yankee the first time I showed up. So
right?
That's north for at least for me when I'm thinking about it. So
yeah, yeah, the little twang that I had is now gone. So yeah.
Well, that's okay. Nothing wrong with a little bit of twang here and there, even if it comes up when you're excited or upset at somebody. I imagine maybe in a teaching
Right.
world, every now and again, just a little pinch of it shows up.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about athletically now at Eastern Mennonite. I think I was looking it up 3 times. You were inside the top 35 ODAC Cross Country Championships, that sort of thing. Did a little bit of track and field. And then, as we'll get into a little bit later here, don't really want to talk about it just now, but something brand new at Eastern Mennonite with triathlon. But let's talk about the cross country and track and field world for you right now. When did you get started with that, maybe in your youth, and just what drives you to be that sort of runner?
hmm I started in 7th grade and I went to a school with a program that wasn't huge, but my dad was the coach. And so I quickly got pretty involved with cross country and just fell in love with it. During my 6th grade year, though, I swore off any kind of running. I hated that. But then by the next summer, I just fell in love with it. I love being able to go out and move my body and experience outside in that way. And it was a way to connect with my dad as well. So that was a really important piece. And as I went throughout high school with cross country, our team also was growing. And so we were able to be a bit more competitive. And I dealt with a few injuries throughout the way, but I knew that I just wanted to keep coming back to it. I think in terms of what runner I would consider myself to be, I love to be driven towards a goal, but I also love the idea of growth within cross country and then also and track and the different people that it can bring in. So I felt like even within the sport, it wasn't necessarily dependent on my ability level in the way that I was able to connect with others and that others were able to reach out to me. And so that's one thing that keeps me coming back to the sport is the people that are in it. And that also proved true in college cross country as well and track. I was so blessed and so grateful for an incredible team all 4 years, even in the midst of coaching changes. And to have that as a constant was just integral in my part at EMU.
Before we get into a little bit more about your athletic career here, I want to take a quick word from Virginia Farm Bureau Insurance.
Thanks.
With over 100 local offices, Virginia Farm Bureau agents are part of your community. If you want insurance from a company that knows you, get to know us.
Abigail, thanks for giving us that 15 seconds there for Virginia Farm Bureaus. We know that we appreciate our sponsors here to help us do things like cross-country championships, like track and field championships and everything here. The ODAC being at the Division III level where every little bit helps. But it also helps start new things, which is what you got to do at Eastern Mennonite University when we're talking about triathlon. Something brand new, really in NCAA all divisions, but especially Division III, and then again at Eastern Mennonite. Talk a little bit about what piqued your interest in triathlon, and what's it like to really build a new program from scratch at a school?
Yeah. So as I said, in 6th grade, I'd sworn away running, but I was swimming at that point, and I was a more talented swimmer than not in comparison to other sports that I had tried. And so when I heard that triathlon was a possibility, I knew that I loved being in the water. I've dealt with a ton of injuries, and the coach that we had just gotten in at the time, Bob Hepler, was really experienced with cross training. And so I had been doing some cross training before triathlon was a possibility earlier that year. So it was kind of one of those things of, oh, like I'm already doing some of the training for it anyways. I can pick up biking, and which is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But so I knew that I was already kind of training in more of a triathlon type way just because of what my body needed as an athlete. And so I was excited to try something new. I think I've always been an opportunist, and if the opportunity is there, I'm usually probably going to take it. And so that's what happened with triathlon. I was really lucky to be able to have work that I could do remotely the summer before, and that was really a big deal in terms of being able to be in the valley and picking up biking and swimming with the resources and the facilities that are here within the community. We don't have many facilities at EMU for swimming or biking even, which is part of building a program. But it was really cool then to rely on the greater community for that, and be able to reach out to others. So we swam at the community pool and also at JMUs at some points, and we're able to use just all of the roads here, which is there's a plethora of routes. And so in terms of being able to build a program, you definitely start out small. You definitely start out with maybe fewer resources than you would with a developed program. But for me, that was part of the exciting nature and the joy in it too.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And also exciting about this is not only did you build it, but you thrived. You finished 13th at the Nationals this year. I know in my notes I made a mistake and I said 14th, and that's obviously wrong, but 13th is the number. And just talk to us a little bit about that, about just starting something new. And you mentioned the biking piece you needed to pick up, and it was going to be more difficult, or it turned out to be more difficult than you thought it would. And yet you were able to conquer it, if you will, a little bit, and finish very well at the Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that the whole season just played out, I appreciate the word thrive. I haven't used it very often before, but when I was reading that in the notes yesterday, it has a piece of joy to it. And I think that I really resonate with that word then, because not just in placing wise, but I also feel like I was able to find myself more as an athlete, develop myself more as an athlete, and form my identity more around being an athletic person. I loved cross country, I loved running, but especially at the collegiate level, I wouldn't have said that I necessarily thrived in terms of athletic ability. And so, yeah, being able to reform my idea and even mental space of how I viewed sports, of how I viewed myself as a contributor to my sports at EMU. And yeah, I mean, it was just an incredible experience. I don't think it was expected by any of us. And so it was a very linear trajectory in terms of how our excitement with it grew throughout the season with my coaches and my teammates. And it was one of those things of we were just learning as we went. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't always have to have the weight of the end of the season on my mind during the summer, for example. And I think that really helped in taking some pressure off and being able to just train fully and be fully present.
No doubt about it. And you took it to its fullest length there you could in 1 year of putting it all together. I mean, it's outstanding. Congratulations for what you're able to do with that.
Thank you.
But let's talk about this a little bit more as we get to the theme of biking, and biking has become a feature here that we're seeing show up on a blog post. And if you go to Eastern Mennonite's website or go to the ODAC website right now, we see something out there about how you and three of your friends, Hannah Chappell-Dick, Michaela Mast, and Joanna Friesen, you took 8 days and biked the entire Blue Ridge Parkway. I think I saw it was a minimum of 50 miles a day. Talk to us a little bit about this journey, this adventure you guys took in July.
Oh my goodness. It was incredible. And I find it funny. I kind of avoided your question about cycling because I did not necessarily thrive in cycling. It was my weakest event. But I think my learning growth period was the largest there. Yeah. So that trip was planned. I had originally planned to bike across the country this summer, and that needed to be put on pause because of COVID. And so Joanna Friesen, who was my cycling coach for triathlon and assistant coaches cross country as well, just threw out this idea to a few of us. And with all of us being quite quarantined out at that point, we were like, yes, we're not going to worry too much about what the parkway even looks like, but yes.
Right.
So we're all kind of yes people, and that's just how it kind of came to be. And in the months leading up to it, we got our supplies ready. We all kind of crammed for training. But in terms of bike handling, like I would not have been able to do that trip without the triathlon experience that I had. I was not a cyclist before. I don't think I had biked for about 10 years before I hopped on a bike last summer.
Wow.
And so that was a fun experience. It was also just, for me, I was the youngest of the group, and the three other women who were there represented incredible role models during my time at EMU. I mean, Michaela Mast and Hannah Chappell-Dick are pretty prominent names in the ODAC, and during their time in running in cross country and track. And Hannah Chappell-Dick had been my coach for 1 year. Michaela Mast had been a teammate, and Joanna had been the most consistent coach I had during my entire college career with all of our coaching changes. And so being able to have that as a capping experience to my time at EMU was one of the best ways to do it, even though we didn't really know what we were going into it. So that was more of like the emotional side of it, but just the physical side of it, oh my goodness, I think we all ended at least one day each and being like, this is the hardest physical challenge we have ever put ourselves through. And we've all put ourselves through a decent amount of physical challenges in the past years.
Wow.
So yeah, definitely to our wits' end at some days, but then you woke up the next day and got right back to it, and it was incredible, just incredible.
So as a quick follow-up to that, you mentioned how you were planning to do a cross-country trip. So after doing this 8-day trip, which you said is the hardest thing you ever done, did it make you think twice about maybe doing that in the future? Or is that still in the plans?
We'll see what teaching schedules look like and what opportunities present themselves. I will say the Blue Ridge Parkway is either completely up or completely down. So a cross-country trip would probably include some Midwestern places that would have a bit more flats. And so I think it got me just interested enough to be like, okay, what would something else be like? Or what would something else feel like? And we said that it was completely hard, but the next weekend, Michaela and Joanna and I all went and biked Skyline Drive in a day. So it was it was just hard enough, but we also, I think, got pretty hooked on it. So we'll see if the cross country trip is in the cards. I hope it is, but I would definitely be up for it.
That's outstanding. Well, congratulations to what you all did here with this, and obviously it's post your collegiate life. But let's talk a little bit more about that as we finish up here. Your post collegiate life now. You're teaching. Give us a little bit of details on that and some of the other things that you either are getting into or you see yourself getting into here now that you're away from Eastern Mennonite.
Yeah. So I'm currently at the high school in Harrisonburg High School, and I teach English language learners, so speakers of other languages who have come here in the past 2 to 3 years and are learning English to continue their high school career. And I am so grateful. I was able to do my student teaching here, and I love Harrisonburg. So I'm excited to look into, I'll also be coaching here as well. So it'll be really exciting to start a teaching career, but then also be able to continue doing what I love and sharing the sports that I love with track and cross country here. And yeah, so that's where I'm at now. In terms of running career and what that will look like, I am a person who is very motivated by an end goal. So right now, not knowing what races are up, I've been able to stay in shape with running to keep myself mentally present in my work and getting started and working through transitions. But I'm hoping once races start to open back up, my next goal is to qualify for Boston. So we'll see when and where that happens, but that would be the goal that I have right now.
Well, Abigail, this has been an outstanding conversation I've had with you. I appreciate you joining us today very much, and good luck to you on the rest of your endeavors, and hopefully that includes some sort of a cross-country trip here coming up.
Yes. Thank you so much, JJ. It's good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that was Abigail Shelly. We thank her very much for joining us here on ODAC Online. We need to put a name to these features here, and I'll try to work on that here over the next couple of weeks here. But until then, wait for our next episode showing up here on ODAConline.com.